pen already. Doing something. It's out to lunch. Sure. That's looking at me right now. Is this on?
I'm Jack McNeary, and my company's McNeary's Arborist. We're basically a tree maintenance firm, but quite a few years ago we got into the landscaping department and decided that a good thing for us to emphasize were water features. And so now we call that part of our company McNeary's Ponds and Aquatic Plants. And that's how we got involved with this client. They had a pond in here that was probably about 6 feet wide and 15 feet long, and it was about 15 or 18 inches deep. The client really enjoys their pets. They have a number of dogs and so forth. And the fish were not doing very well in the existing pond. We actually came out and knocked out one of the walls. In fact, the wall was put in by a swimming pool contractor. The wall was about that, I'm not exaggerating, it was that thick, and it had rebar in it. And it was a job to get it out. We put a retro drain in and ran back to a filter. The existing small pond had a 1.5 horsepower swimming pool type pump and filter system on it, and just wasn't really doing the job. And the long and short of it is that they wanted to upgrade, and we found a method to get them up and going. And we had trouble, once this was designed, finding someone around locally who could put it in. The swimming pool contractors were truthfully just didn't seem to want to mess with it. We were able to line up with Karen Coy, Carl Force, and frankly I think the end product looks pretty darn good. I'm real pleased, and the client's very pleased with what's been done.
A company there in Georgia where I do installations also, and I do
Well, the way it came about is Jack McNeary, who's a local arborist, and I wouldn't say part-time, but he does some ponds. Has known the owner for quite some time, and the scale of the project was a little bit more than Jack wanted to tackle. So he contacted us, and we got together and met with the owner and reviewed the plans and modified the plans. The original design of the house is done by a very famous architect, and then the pond was basically done by a swimming pool architect from Florida, and a very beautiful design, but there were some things in the design that we were interested in changing. So because we've done enough ponds that we kind of know how they need to work and what works best for us. So we proposed some modifications to the owner, and the owner liked what we showed them, and made the modifications on the drawings, gave them a price, and we're building the pond and getting some help from Jack's crew to build the pond. And they're learning. His objective was to be able to learn a little bit more from us, since we do so many large ponds. I just moved it back over a foot. I'll just have to move it over back that side.
outside.
That's the dig.
Okay.
I'll move it over back here. I'll undercut this later when we get the bobcat in there. Well, it's gone very smoothly, with the exception of the existing pond, which was built by a swimming pool contractor, was overbuilt. So we knew we had to jackhammer out a pond, but we were anticipating 6 to 8 inches of reinforced gunite, not 14 to 24 inches of reinforced gunite. So it wasn't so much of a challenge, it was just more difficult to get the existing pond out than we thought. The In addition to that, the footer underneath the existing wall that we're replacing was, instead of a normal maybe 30 inches by 8 or 10 inches, that was 14 inches by 4 feet wide as well. So we had a lot of fun removing the concrete foundation. So, but the soil here is unbelievably hard. We actually have an electric shovel that we use, which is made by Hilti, and it's like a chisel, but it's got a wide shovel head on it. Without that, you just can't take a shovel and dig this material. It's so hard that you actually need either a backhoe or an electric shovel to dig the dirt, which is a plus because once it's carved to the right shape, it doesn't fall in. It's very stable.
It's on. We got way to go. About another foot at least.
Not much. The inside dimensions of the pond are 12 feet wide by 38 feet long by approximately 6 deep.
It goes from there to there.
All this dirt's too high.
Right there. Straight as
Pond is inside dimensions 12 by 38, but the original wall on the house extended into the pond, and they wanted to keep the original design by the architect, who was McDonough, who's a very famous architect. So what we did is we put a 2 foot by 8 foot block wall in the center of the pond, and then we're going to bridge from the center section to the existing wall with reinforced concrete. And that way the wall from the top will appear that it goes right through the pond, but the fish will be able to swim all the way around the perimeter, so we can get a circular flow. If we would have kept the design as the architect envisioned it, we would not have been able to have any reasonable flow because it would have been a giant U-shaped pond.
What do we see behind us with the overhang of the cement here?
This is the entranceway to their home, and the finished face of the wall is actually going to come up about a foot beyond that will cantilever over, and we'll block up to the underside of it, resaw it so that it's clean, and spray polyurea up the wall on the underside and up the face. So the water level will be, the bridge will essentially be floating in water. The entranceway to the house will essentially be floating in water. Appear to be floating in water.
Take the same over here. This side, you gotta take it away.
This is good right here, right?
Jason.
Well, I'm looking by.
Hey, where's that little twist thing for these ties?
Okay. That's what happens when New Georgia boys put things together. It's got a lot nut on it. Yeah, they wiggle. We wiggle.
Hey, this is my new rate. Y'all broke mine, I get this one, right?
It's tough, Trevor.
The pond is set up so that the water can spin. We've got 2 bottom drains, and the filtration is being done by jetting an 8.8 cubic foot aquadyne, and there's a filter, biological filter we call a Baki shower, which is Baki shower media in stainless steel trays, and that's actually going to be an exposed feature above the stone wall, with the water discharging from the bottom of the Baki shower and going through the wall back into the water.
The bottom drains are going to have air domes on them, or the bottom drains?
One has an air dome and the other does not. The reason for that is the Baki shower's on one end, and the second bottom drain is actually underneath the wall, underneath the bridge. So we didn't want to introduce air directly below the Baki shower, which is high oxygenation, and having the bubbles come up from underneath the water. So we have one with an air dome and one without. Bottom drains are run through a 4-inch pipe into a 5-foot diameter, 5-foot deep vortex. And the vortex is set up so that we draw off the vortex and then go through the bead filter and then back into the bottom drains. The vortex is set up on an auto discharge. We actually have, we developed this ourselves. What we do is we take a PLC and we, by computer, discharge the bottom drain once a day to get the debris and the feces out. So it's an automatic discharge, and it does have a safety so that it can't drain the pond. So we have it automatically discharge a small amount of water every day, and then we have a autofill system which actually keeps the water level at exactly the same level with a micro switch all the time.
So this is one opportunity where you've had a nice chance to leave the Baki showers exposed and have them be part of the architecture.
Right. We actually had the Baki shower designed to go in the filter room, and they chose to have it exposed. When they saw it, it was a similar design we did for Urban Outfitters, which is a large clothing company at their world headquarters in Philadelphia. And they saw the pictures of that. They said, we like the way this looks. We want it exposed. Can we incorporate it in the design outside? And that's when we put it above the stone wall.
And back it up. Okay. Go to the next one.
Now we don't reach.
All right, go to this one. Yep. Put on the pins. Finish. Take a small hand shovel or something. It's got to be all hollow in there. Take all the loose stuff out so the concrete goes all the way around the bottom drain. The loose stuff out.
Yeah. I'll take it with my hands.
Move!
basically what occurs is the bottom drains need to be lower than the perimeter of the pond, and there's approximately a 10-inch drop between the perimeter of the pond and where the bottom drain sets. So what we do is we overdig the middle of the pond and slope the dirt towards the bottom drain, and when we pour the cement we put in grade stakes so that the entire perimeter will be level, because if the entire perimeter is not level it makes it very difficult to lay the block. So when we place the cement, either pumped or whether it's poured, we put the cement around the perimeter to the grade stakes, get that level, and then we slope it down to the bottom drains. And the reason why you want the slope is because we're spinning the pond with jets, and you want all the debris to settle towards the bottom drain.
Right there, need a little. Should be it. Right behind your left foot. Right here. There. Point again. Good. Complains about me stepping in. It goes and steps in there. Size 14 right in the middle. Bitch. Huh? Bitch, man.
They wanted the pond basically just to glow, so we've got 6 500 watt, which is a total of 6 and 5, 3,000 watts, which is it's a fair amount of light, but it goes on a slow on dimmer so that if the lights are turned on at night that it doesn't spook the fish. And with the 500 watt halogen lights, you can actually dial in what kind of a mood you want. And they're interested in, you know, the pond itself just basically glowing, and then that center stone wall will get the reflections off the light coming up from the pond itself. The way it's done is the sidewalls, once the slab is poured, we lay the first course of block around the perimeter of the pond. Then we take a rotary hammer and we drill holes in the existing slab and pin the first course of block to the floor. And then we, when we lay the block, all of the cells match up. It's a 8 by 8 by 16 2-cell block, and the cells line up so that you have this hollow tube inside the block, which goes from the top of the pond to the bottom. And once the block is laid up, we put a half-inch rebar in every hole, and then we get the pump truck in with concrete and we fill the cells so that you have a reinforced solid wall. Basically the same strength as a reinforced poured concrete wall. Maybe not quite as much, but more than adequate.
That back blade's going to have 13 inches. I'm going to have a step in here.
No, this is the step, brother.
This is 13 inches water. It's not 10 foot. That's what he's going to be.
Whatever.
There's water. I mean, I don't like to have it back.
When you do the block work, no matter how good you are, there's a joint, and you don't want that joint to translate through the polyurea so that you'd actually see the joint. Even though you would be getting an algae coat on, you want a nice smooth surface. So what we do is we cove the bottom corners to give you a nice, round cove, and then we plaster the inside of the pond just with regular stucco cement. And that gives you a nice smooth surface to put the polyurea on. Very, very clean, very interesting design with the 55-foot stone wall bisecting the pond and actually going 2/3 of the way through the pond. And it'll appear as though the wall actually bisects most of the pond, but it won't, because the bridge portion of it, which is about 16 feet long, will be underwater, and so you won't really, because once it's algaed up, you really won't realize that, other than the fish can swim completely around the perimeter, the pond will spin. But a very, very attractive design, and it's very clean, and I think it's going to be a very, very nice design. Well, the preparation is that everything needs to be very clean and very smooth. So once the plastering's done, we make sure that the top edge is, and this is a contemporary type pond where there's no stonework, so the top edge wants to be very, very smooth and very clean. So we take a diamond wheel and make sure that everything is straight and plumb and very sharp edges, so that when the polyurea is sprayed, it actually looks like a professional did it. When today is actually the perfect spray day. It's about 55, 60 degrees, and it's almost a no-wind condition. But the purpose of the tent is to keep overspray from finding its way to the side of the house, because it sticks to the side of the house just as well as it sticks to the concrete. Owner tends to get upset, if you spray the side of their house.
gotta have the pressure off. All right. And on the bottom drain, but don't take it too far away. Okay. Run! Give me the gun, give me the gun.
Okay, basically what we're going to do is we've got the pond prepped. We're going to spray a primer coat down to go ahead and get good adhesion to the concrete surface. And then as soon as that primer coat's down, we're going to go ahead and spray the polyurea directly over the top of the primer coat. Take about 5 minutes or 6 minutes for the primer coat to set properly. And of course we're going to have to clean it out of the machine and then put the fresh polyurea in the machine.
He didn't want that.
No. Make sure it's on top. Right, Philip.
Well, polyurea lasts typically anywhere from 60 to 100 years depending on the application. It should far outlast rubber liners. It's very much more durable than rubber liners, but the reason I like to use polyurea is it allows me to do a pond that you cannot put a typical liner into. Typically, you know, you just have a square box, you put a liner in it and everything's good, but you got the folds in the corners. You got a lot of problems in getting everything to fit right. With the polyurea, whatever the shape of your pond is, the liner takes that shape of the pond. We had an instance where we had a big rock that was right in the middle of the pond as we were digging the hole, and that allowed us to save the rock, actually make it a focal point inside the pond, and we just absolutely just covered it over and just made a watertight seal around the rock.
So you're also going to be able to shoot around the light fixtures and around.
Well, actually, what we've done is the light fixtures, we've primed them and buffed them, and the polyurea is actually going to adhere to the light fixture itself. Now, we've taped it off on the inside, and we've also taped the inside of the skimmers off. But it's chemically going to bind and be bound to the skimmer and to the lights. And we're going to use a mechanical seal on the bottom drains just to be 100% sure that we don't ever have a problem. We should be able to be done with it by this evening before it gets dark, if everything works right. The drying time, the curing time, usually you get the full strength within 24 hours, but we're not looking for strength here. We're looking for watertight, and you can have that instantly. The minute you get out of the pond, you can start filling it with water. You can walk on it within about 2 minutes without it sticking to your shoes. Basically, it's dried to the touch within 60 seconds. Okay, this is the most flexible. This is the SL45, and as you can see, it's very, very flexible. You can move it just however you want. And this piece is about 100 mils thick, so you can see it's just as flexible as the 45 mil liner. And it does stretch quite a bit. The elongation is 1300%. and we use that in applications where there might be some movement to what we're spraying it on. This is the clearer version of that. We use that to spray over existing rock to get a watertight seal rather than tear off all the rock work and redo all the rock work. And this is about 250 mils thick, or 200 mils, and you can see it's very flexible. And then these are the colors. You can spray it whatever color you want. The dark gray, light gray, tan, or they call it mocha, and then the fish blue. But these are the stiffer versions. This is what we're going to be spraying today. You can see it's flexible. Not as flexible as the other, but I mean it bends, and it does stretch some, but this doesn't stretch much. But of course, when you've got a concrete pond, you don't have to worry about stretch.
Thicker. That'll work. We can live with that.